It's an action-packed week in New York City. World leaders are returning to the United Nations for the crucial General Assembly session. The UNGA will be looking to build momentum to reach an ambitious climate agreement with a focus on boosting efforts to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and seek unity after the Taliban took over Afghanistan. All this in the shadow of tensions between the US, China and Russia. Climate change is expected to top the agenda at the 76th session as the United Nations Secretary General added that the war on the planet must end. Guterres opened the UNGA week with a 5-point Sustainable Development Agenda for 2030.
Our world is challenged like never before, from climate change to conflicts to COVID-19, which is putting the Sustainable Development Goals further out of reach. It would be easy to lose hope, but we are not hopeless or helpless. We have a path to recovery if we choose to take it. That's what this SDG moment is all about. Coming together to save our planet and each other. Coming together also with the BTS today, which is a fantastic contribution.
The current president of the UNGA, the Maldives Foreign Minister Abdullah Shahid, also called for sustainable development. The issue of vaccine access will also be at the top of the UNGA agenda, with the South Korean President Moon Jae-in saying that they are committed to expanding vaccine supply.
Probably the artist that is most...
We are all aware the pandemic has severely impacted the SDGs. But the irony is that the SDGs themselves provide us the most comprehensive and universal toolkit in our efforts to recover sustainably.
That found that all disasters in the world are interconnected. For instance, the heat wave in the Arctic and cold wave in Texas, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic and Cyclone Amphan that hit Bangladesh, are closely connected with one another through the links of carbon emissions and environmental destruction. If the problems are interconnected, then so be the solutions.
UK and Prime Minister Boris Johnson and United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres convened a roundtable with a focus on a $100 billion climate action fund. Johnson urged the world's richest countries to fulfill their promise of a financial package to help the developing countries cut greenhouse gas emissions. He added that the UK is taking steps to phase out coal. The conference comes ahead of the major COP26 climate summit, which will be beginning in UK's Glasgow in late October, with the 2015 Paris climate deal as the main agenda. However, hardly any participant is on track to meet its commitments. As per the pact, signatories had agreed to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, protect communities and natural habitats, mobilize funds to tackle the climate crisis, and the joint action by governments, businesses and civil society. In the roundtable, Johnson called on countries to switch to clean and green fuel to reduce emissions, as well as stressed on the hydrocarbon resources.
I think that Glasgow COP26 is a turning point for the world, and it's the moment when we have to grow up and take our responsibilities. I think we go through a period of glorious indifference about the world. We've been through that. We've been through our childhood, if you like. We now got to realise that this is a problem that requires grip, and there are changes we're going to have to make. But people should be optimistic, because we can make these changes whilst encouraging the creation of literally millions of high-wage, high-skill jobs. We need to move from old hydrocarbon technology into new, clean, green technology.
Guterres also called on countries to meet the UN Sustainable Goals on climate to avert further disasters. A large part of the global body's goals are dedicated to saving the planet. They are urgent action to combat climate change, climate-related disaster mitigation, integrate climate change measures into policy, build knowledge and capacity to meet climate change, implement UN Framework Convention on Climate and climate communication, In the meeting, the UN chief said that all countries should cancel subsidies on coal plants and transition from coal-powered plants to clean fuel.
We need decisive action now around net zero commitments from all countries and the private sector. And I want to mention one specific challenge: energy. Governments must shift subsidies away from fossil fuels and progressively phase out coal use. If all planned coal power plants become operational, we will not only be clearly about 1.5 degrees, we will be well above 2 degrees. And the Paris targets would go up in smoke. OECD nations need to end coal use by 2030, developing nations need to follow suit by 2040, and we need coalitions of solidarity between countries that still depend heavily on coal and countries that have the financial and technical resources to support transitions.
As the controversy surrounding the AUKUS deal continues to escalate, the EU chief Ursula von der Leyen has said that Australia has treated France in an absolutely unacceptable way. Meanwhile, the bloc's foreign ministers are meeting on the sidelines of the UNGA, the pact that virtually cancelled a submarine deal between France and Australia. The 27-member bloc president saying that France was treated in an absolutely unacceptable way, saying that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. This is the first ever reaction coming in from the European Union regarding the issue. France, remember, recalled its envoys from US and Australia in a strong display of displeasure over the absolute secrecy of its allies regarding the deal. The AUKUS agreement scuppered Australia's multi-billion-dollar 2016 deal to buy submarines from France, which had been personally backed by President Emmanuel Macron. France's foreign minister had branded the new agreement a stab in the back. The French President Emmanuel Macron is skipping the UNGA summit this year, but his office had said that this was decided prior to the AUKUS controversy. However, when US President Joe Biden requested for a call with him, his office said it will happen in the coming days. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.